Welcome to YouTube, where you're here with the real, listening and hearing the real. This is Ashley, your girl Ashley, and this is your girl Alicia. Say hello, hey Alicia.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Ashley, for having me today.
I'd love to have you. We love to have Alicia on the channel every time she comes on. I think this is her first time, but she'll definitely be someone that we bring on quite often. She's a good friend of mine, and she's someone that knows a great deal, and is very, very spirited, and is very into a lot of the different things that's going on in the world. And right now, today, what we're going to talk about is something that it's been going on for a very long time, as it should have been, and should probably have been going on for a lot longer, or been as popular as it is now. And that is Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a beautiful, wonderful celebration. It's a celebration of independence of the enslaved African Americans or African people of America. Now, we all know that July the 4th is the independence or Independence Day for Americans after they fought the British in the Independence War, or the War of Independence against the British. But we all know what that meant for Africans and what would become African Americans. So African Americans don't really look at July the 4th or view it the same way that everyone else does, particularly European or Caucasian Americans, because we did not receive the same kind of treatment or the same kind or we didn't receive. So as we all know, the July the 4th, Independence Day, is a day that commemorates the American Revolution, where Americans that rebelled against Britain and the British monarchy were successful in that revolution, and became independent of Britain and started their own colonies, their own nation. But we know it did not work out the same way for African Americans. In fact, it became worse for African Americans or Africans back then, because that's when the real enslavement of the African people began. And by real, I mean that's when they really started using African people to do all of their work, the labor. That's when the real what do you call it, Alicia? The transatlantic slave trade began. Because they needed people to farm their cotton, they needed people to farm their soybeans, their tobacco, and they weren't going to do it themselves, right? Right, and so watch the kids, all of that stuff. So they went out and they couldn't use the Indians because they basically demolished the Indians. If it worked not through warfare, they did it through biological warfare. Essentially, they brought over diseases from their native countries. The Caucasians brought over diseases, and unfortunately, basically annihilated an entire race of people, the native Indians. So we are not here to celebrate the July the 4th. That is not what most African Americans look to as their Independence Day. What most African Americans commemorate as their Independence Day is Juneteenth, right, Alicia?
Right.
So
with that, okay, that's why you were trying to educate everyone to know about the 4th of July, and we have to look at the fact that, like you were saying, you were just iterating that everyone is so familiar with celebrating the 4th of July, but they haven't educated themselves what it really truly means.
Correct.
The 4th of July, a lot of people say it's for everyone. Everyone wants to celebrate the independence. But that was not our independence. And so this is the topic tonight that she's want to discuss. And thank you for having me available here for it as well.
Thank you so much for being here.
And the topic she's want to show is, a lot of people have not known about Juneteenth. Juneteenth was something that was pushed under the rug. For a lot of people in schools have not taught it. So I really love your passion and how you're talking about it, and it's educating people, not just to have, welcome, happy Juneteenth, but she's trying to give you the meaning of Juneteenth and what it means to us, and how should we as African Americans, how we should perceive Juneteenth and take it and pass on a message for our kids, because it's something that you truly, truly need to take in.
Yeah, understand the meaning behind it, educate your kids about it, and make them help them to understand why it's so much more important to celebrate Juneteenth as African Americans than it is to celebrate July the 4th, quote unquote, Independence Day for Europeans.
Right.
Europeans, really, because I mean, there was no independence for African Americans or Africans during that time. It was the exact opposite of independence. They were brought over as property to basically do the labor and work of people for free, and treated as if they were property and or animals, unfortunately. Correct. Which is disgusting. But we're not here to elaborate on that right now. That's not what that topic necessarily is about, right, even though it's a part of it. Right now, we're here to talk about the celebration, the great celebration of Juneteenth. And so in discussing that topic, let's talk about a little bit where Juneteenth started. So Juneteenth started in Texas. Basically, there were a group of African Americans that came together, pooled their money together, African Americans. They pooled their money together. It was about $1,000 that they pooled together and utilized to buy about 10 acres of land. And in buying that 10 acres of land, they utilized it to create a grounds for a celebration. And that celebration was Juneteenth. Back then, they didn't call it Juneteenth. Back then, it had a different name. Back then, they called it, I believe they called it Jubilee. The Jubilee. Yeah, so they called it the Jubilee back then. And then around 1890, that's when they changed the name from the Jubilee or Jubilee to Juneteenth, right? Mm-hmm. And now here we are today. Texas was one of the first states to start celebrating it. One of the first states to recognize it as believe it or not, a national holiday. A lot of people wouldn't think that because Texas is one of those states that was a Confederate state and participated in the Civil War on the Confederate side. Correct. So it's difficult to believe that Texas is where that originated, but it wasn't necessarily the state of Texas wasn't exactly the reason why Juneteenth started there. Was because those African Americans came together and decided to create that celebration there and pool their money together to make that celebration happen there.
Now, you heard that? We can say put together is unity.
Unity.
That's something we're missing today.
That's something, but I will say, with everything that's going on right now, I do see, even though, there's some pockets here and there where you see other things going on, mm-hmm. but overall, I will say there's some unity happening, or a great deal of unity happening right now with all of the protests and everything that's going on over the George Floyd situation and the other young lady, Breonna Taylor, and
in a recent it's in Raymond. I'm not gonna say his last name because I kind of forgot it. I do apologize.
And that's but it's that's the problem. It's so many. You have the Eric Gardners, Alton Sterling's, right here. Tamir. There's so many that have been murdered by either the police or by other Caucasian men who think that they are the police, who think they have the authority to go out there and make someone do something when they themselves are citizens, just like that individual was with Mr. Arbery. They thought they had the right to corner this man and to make this man stop his run and to force him to to answer the questions that they were asking as if they were law enforcement, which they weren't. They had no right to do that, and he had every right to run right by them and avoid them, just like he did. And we saw what happened there. But just to answer the question, to respond to what she said about unity, even though there are a lot of areas that we need to work on as African Americans when it comes to unity, I do think we do see a lot of great things happening right now also when it comes to unity. It's unfortunate that it takes such devastating, tragic events to bring us together as one to fight and to fight against the system. But it's happening, and even though the way it happened is unfortunate, I am glad that it is happening. So, Juneteenth, back to Juneteenth. We're digressing from the topic. Go ahead.
But we don't want to make this out of a race war. We just want to educate you guys and also giving you our thoughts and our opinions on it. Because we are entitled to our thoughts and opinions. So, we're going to go back to the topic. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No. So, that's what this is about. We're here to talk about, all of this is interrelated, right? All of this is interrelated. It's about race, racism, segregation, hatred, and why did Juneteenth have to come about in the first place? Juneteenth, because of slavery. You had a slave system in America that was finally abolished after 300, 400 plus years, after having to have an entire civil war, and then you have a celebration for that afterward that was created again by African Americans who are able to come together and pull money together, resources and money together to get this land and start the celebration. So, to continue on with this topic, the holiday was again celebrated by enslaved people, starting in Texas. It's now celebrated annually, every day or every third day of June, if I'm not mistaken. Every third Sunday of June. My mistake. So it's celebrated now annually every third Sunday of June. So there are some states that still do not celebrate it annually. And one of those states in particular surprises me somewhat. Hawaii is one of those states that does not celebrate Juneteenth as a national holiday, or even as a state holiday or territory holiday, or whatever you want to call it. North Dakota and South Dakota also do not celebrate Juneteenth as a holiday. So that's something to think about and keep in mind. I'm not really sure why. I would presume because Hawaii became a territory of America later on, and then an actual state in America later on. But still, all in all, I just would think that Hawaii would be one of those states to recognize something so important as supporting a group of people, a race of people that have been held down for so long. Because Hawaiians are another race of people that have been mistreated by the system, I guess you could say. And so I would be surprised. I'm surprised that they, would not celebrate a holiday like that.
Now with Hawaii, I probably not understand. I don't understand why, because I think it should be all across the world. It should be celebrated just like any other holiday. National holiday has given credit to 4th of July. Probably go back to that, but I'm not going to take that terribly long. But I think Hawaii is trying to not pull themselves into diversity. So they rather not just celebrate it. Just like, there are people that see things but turn their head. So I think that's Hawaii's probably. They don't want to really go into it. Mm-hmm. So they rather not just, deal with it at all. So that's why I think they probably just, my honest opinion. Okay. It's not factual, but I'm just giving my opinion.
Okay.
So that's why Hawaii probably not going to touch that hot water.
Right.
So,
but I just feel like, how difficult is it for the governor of Hawaii to just observe Juneteenth as a national holiday? My question is, what would they lose to observe Juneteenth as a national holiday? What would be its law? Every other state except for besides Hawaii, the other two I just named, officially observe Juneteenth as a holiday. So that would include states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Kansas, Missouri. We know all of these states to be Confederate, to be historically Confederate states. So personally, for me, it baffles me that Hawaii would not, celebrate Juneteenth.
It also states there that Africans in Hawaii, they're only 2.3% are in African descent only.
Well, that may be, that's a topic all of its own. But so a lot of Hawaiians are mixed with African descent or have African ancestry. Right. Believe it or not, a lot of Hawaiians. Look at The Rock. And I know his father is black, but if you trace the lineage and the ancestors of Hawaiians, a lot of them go back to Africa. And I know a lot of people say Africa is the cradle of civilization, so we all technically have African descent. But I mean, even recently, I'm talking 200, 300, 400 years ago. I'm not talking about thousands or 10,000 or 10,000 years ago, or whenever the world first began, or humanity first began. I'm talking about a couple of hundred years ago. Hawaii, from what I understand and what I've been taught, has a lot of people of African descent or African ancestry, whether they admit it or not. So
I'm gonna stop at the parade.
So we went over the fact that it's celebrated annually, usually on June 19th or on the third Sunday of June, and it's big in places like Texas, Virginia, New York, and it's also considered a paid holiday in those particular states as well. Wow. It's recognized as a paid holiday, so that's something to keep in mind, that New York, Virginia, and Texas observe Juneteenth as a paid holiday. So 2 thumbs up to those 3 states for observing Juneteenth as a paid holiday.
Spread the word.
Spread the word. Every just like you observe July, if you observe July the 4th as a national paid holiday, Juneteenth should be observed as a national paid holiday nationwide. Every single state in America should observe Juneteenth as a national holiday, period, point blank. Every single state has African Americans in it. There's not one state in this country that doesn't have African. There are some states that have more than others, but there's not one state in this country that doesn't have African Americans in it. And so every single state in this country should be observing Juneteenth as a national paid holiday, if you're going to observe July the 4th as a national paid holiday. Excuse me, I'm receiving a call. So what are some of the things that happen during Juneteenth celebrations? So some of the things that occur during Juneteenth celebrations are public readings. I'm sure it's poems, particularly about people like Maya Angelou, historic people that have really contributed to African American, uplifting African Americans and pushing us forward as a people, as a race in this country. One of those people that come to mind is Maya Angelou. Right. You had the Du Bois of the world, and many others. The Marcus Garveys, Ernest Gaines. He's another one, very popular. A lot of very popular authors, poets, activists that have lots of literature out there, and a lot of that literature is read during Juneteenth celebrations. So that's one of the things that may occur during the Juneteenth celebration. You also have singing, of course, Black people singing. And not to say, look, everybody has culture and music in their music and dance in their culture, but Africans, when it comes to music and dance, I don't know, man, it's just something in our souls that just really comes out when it comes to music and dance. And I don't think there's any person in this world that would deny that African Americans and Africans in general, people with African descent, there's just something special about them when it comes to music and dance. And you see that even in the popular culture in America. A lot of our most popular musicians and dancers, musicians especially, or singers, are of African American descent. That's just what it is.
Right.
That's just what it is, you know? Am I speaking lies? No, I am not. That's just what it is. You have Miss Juneteenth contest.
Wow.
Yeah, and they sing some hymns, national treasure hymns for African Americans. One of the main ones. What do you think is one of the main ones, Alicia?
Wade in the Water.
Wade in the Water is a big one. But what's one of the biggest ones they
Let
sung?
Freedom Ring.
Let Freedom Ring. But lift
Every voice and
lift
sing.
every voice and sing.
That's the song.
That's the name of the song. Lift every voice and sing.
Right.
There is not one Juneteenth celebration, not one African American celebration that's based in African American culture and history where you probably are not going to hear some version of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Beyonce did it at Coachella, and boy, did she do it. Listen, y'all can say what y'all want to say about Beyonce. Y'all can say that she's not the greatest singer in the world, whatever. Beyonce got a voice on her, bro. And she do it while she dancing. You know what I'm saying? Like, the reason why Beyonce is so famous and so popular and so great at what she does, and she is basically our generation's Michael Jackson, is because she can sing and she can dance her butt off. She can do both. You usually have people that can either sing or dance, either or. Beyonce can do both at levels that are unheard of or unseen. And that's why she's Beyonce.
Right.
And I don't praise nobody but God, but I respect talent. Beyonce got some talent on her.
Amen.
So, with that being said, so that's what they usually do during Juneteenth celebrations. You have your public readings, you have your singing, you have your traditional hymns. You also have Miss Juneteenth contest, and that's pretty much it. You know. One last thing. I wanted to say this because this shows. This is a prime example of Black people running away from the history, thinking,
come on, you said it.
Thinking that it makes them look less than or bad, or makes them look like they are just the bottom of the bottom. But celebrate who you are and everything that you've been through. Your ancestors. Gladys Knight stated that there were a lot of upward moving Black people that did not want to celebrate or participate in Juneteenth in her heyday, which would be around the 60s or the 70s.
Right.
Because it was a reminder of slavery.
Now people have to stop thinking that, oh, it's a reminder, so I'm not gonna celebrate it because it's gonna show that my ancestors struggled and different things. That's the reason why you should use this time to celebrate.
Yes.
To show how far we have come as people of African descent.
Yes.
African American descent. So let freedom ring. Celebrate.
Yes.
Educate.
Yes.
And to show these kids that's coming up behind us what it means. So what it truly means to celebrate Juneteenth.
Yes. And to add on to what Alicia said, your ancestors were able to overcome obstacles.
Right.
I don't think any other or very few other people in this world were able to overcome and still persevere. That is not something to be ashamed of.
Come on.
That is something to be proud of. That is something to celebrate. That is something to dance about, to sing about. That is something to put your fist in the air and say, my people had the strength. They had the intelligence. They had the integrity. They had the everything you can think of. All of the positive to be able to get through that time, which was horrible. It was a horrible time, but they were able to persevere and get through it. Never be ashamed to be to be progeny of slaves, African American slaves, because what that means is that you come from something that is just can only be a gift from God. That's what you come from, a gift from God. Those people were a gift from God. And those of you who know what I mean, you know what I mean. And I'll leave it at that. I won't say anything beyond that. Okay? So, celebrate Juneteenth. Be proud of who you are, where you came from, who your people were, and where you going. And keep celebrating it. And keep pushing to make sure that every state in America not only celebrates it, but recognizes it as a national holiday. Okay? So, power on to the people. Juneteenth. Power on to Juneteenth, and make sure you get out there and celebrate you. Well, maybe not this year, because we don't want nobody out there catching COVID. It's not worth your life. But seriously, like it's really, COVID is serious. It's something that's really taking people's lives, and if somebody is within a couple of feet of you, and they have it, I mean, my God. But yeah, maybe not this year, but there are other ways you can celebrate it too. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to celebrate it. You don't have to celebrate it. Yeah, you don't have to celebrate it out there in the streets amongst parades and people and things like that. You can celebrate it from your home, have a dinner with family and friends, but just acknowledge it, celebrate it in any way you can, even if you can't go out there in the streets and do it. And just whenever this COVID thing is gone, get back out there and celebrate it in the streets and parades with your people, all of your people. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Alicia for coming on my channel. I really appreciate it. Having her here has been awesome. I can't wait to bring her back and bring others on the channel as well. Politicians, business owners, every type of singers, people of the culture, musicians, everything you can think of. I told you I'm going to bring them all. And I'm going to talk about it all. So I want y'all to do 3 things for me. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Alicia, what else 3?
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Don't forget.
If you real. If you ain't real,
You gotta go.
keep your butt where you at. Peace. And I love the kids. Bye. Actually love the kids. Bye.